Okay, you're good now.
Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody. It's really good to see your faces and welcome to the October 7th meeting, 2021 meeting of the CB6 Strategic Community Planning Committee. My name is Kavitha Matthew and I'm chair of the committee. The meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. And tonight we're joined by Community Associate Alex Crawford and District Manager Jesus Perez. Members of the public. Do we have any members of the public? We'll see. We'll go through the whole thing anyway, I guess, right? Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A features of Zoom. If there's any time following the committee's discussion, we'll field questions from the public. And Jim Collins has volunteered to take minutes tonight. Let's see. Now we will take attendance by roll call. Alexandra will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Asia Badi. Jim Collins.
Here.
Kavitha Matthew.
Here.
Sandra McKee. Wells Magali. Richard Mintz.
Here.
Lou Sapersky.
Yo.
Sandros Sherrod. Letty Simon. Karen Vanderdonk.
Here.
Claude L. Winfield.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, thank you, Alexandra.
Yep.
The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. And the minutes from the June 3rd committee meeting were distributed ahead of time. Thanks, Rich, for those. If there's no objection, we will adopt these minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. And seeing no objections, the minutes from the June 3rd meeting are adopted and soon be available on the CB6 website. I'm going to run quickly through the ground rules. It should be a quick meeting, but in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. Everybody knows how to use the participants icon at this point. The chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties we're having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I'll identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. We're required by New York State law to have a transcript of the meeting, so please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. So now we will dive into tonight's very brief agenda. And the first item on our agenda is a discussion about the future of the committee's projects. And the reason it says that is this is our last meeting as an official committee. We've decided, I've spoken with Kyle over the summer, and because of events and progress with MSBI and changes in that, we've decided that we are going to not have this be an official committee, but still we have some things that are in the works that we'd like to keep moving with, remaining items from 197A. And the feeling is that we can take that with us to other committees and get the work done. So I just wanted to have one final formal, I want to see all your faces, to be honest. And then I also wanted to just see how we kind of move forward with things that were in the works, because I don't think MSBI was not our only, item of import. So I'm going to kind of open up the floor to you guys to discuss this. But I do think several of us, there's a lot of overlap between us and land use. So I will personally be taking whatever I think, is remaining of this to the land use committee with me. But I think, as Jim stated before, there's other committees that could be very useful in terms of kind of proceeding. I think we go back to being a working group of some kind in the background, but and we can certainly convene in that way. But in terms of the committee, not enough on our plates to kind of keep it moving, I think, effectively. So open it up to your thoughts.
I'm requesting the floor.
Okay, Lou, please go ahead.
I was going to suggest that we, in fact, refocus on doing the 197A plan. The original effort was done about 15 or 17 years ago, and it's clearly time for a major overhaul. And when we first got started, the parameters, the geographic boundaries, I think were 34th to 14th East River to Irving Place. And that's an area that would be in serious need of a look and some major planning and efforts to rationalize the developments and activity in that area.
Thank you, Lou. I appreciate your saying that. We are, and I don't know, Jesus, I know we need to work this out. We are expecting to bring on a community, what's it called?
Community Planning Associate.
Yeah, fellow or you know, there's going to be someone on board shortly that we're going to see if that's the project. That's what I had proposed, that we have someone work on with those of us who, you know, can provide any history or insight to that. But we'll have to work that out. We're not sure exactly the details of him coming on board. But go ahead, Jim. I see your hand is up.
Yeah, insofar as planning, I think one of the things that we could do as a committee and probably do quite well is to assess some of the demographics in our area. I mean, recollect that the land use committee tends to be more reactive than proactive. They get notice of X building is going up. Can you hear me okay? I'm getting a note here. It says my internet connection is unstable.
I can hear you.
Anyway, okay. But I mean, we have changing demographics. We have older people, you know, who presumably might age in place. You know, what they call NORCs, the naturally occurring retirement communities. We have need for schools and for preschools. There's also a commercial element of what we need to do. For example, the police academy, when it closed, affected a lot of the neighborhood businesses here in Gramercy, but I'm sure that there are other facilities in the city. I'm sure, for example, around NYU Hospital, they were impacted by the coronavirus, as well as some of the other hospitals, the VA hospital, et cetera, et cetera. I just think those are the things we should look at and address, and maybe put together a report, not necessarily a 197A plan, which, you know, typically deals with land, but more one that deals with demographics. You know, how many of the people in our neighborhood or in our community district are low income, who would require affordable housing? How many people are medium income that would require that level of income, that level of affordable housing, and just really get a better feel for the community. And moreover, we might want to do a survey of community residents and leave it open for a few months, you know, and use the social media channels that we've developed so far with respect to Mount Sinai Hospital's takeover. Use those social media channels instead to measure the desires of the local community. What are their thoughts in terms of crime and policing, parks, affordability, their needs? You know, if you're 68 years old and ready to retire, are you planning to stay in the community, or are you moving elsewhere? You know, and just get a better sense than we get from a snapshot every 10 years with the census. And those are my general thoughts. And moreover, as I said before we came into session, I think it would be worthwhile for us, when we go through in the budget committee, when we go through the budget proposals, that instead of talking in these broad vectors of more, that we talk more in terms of quantum. Instead of saying, you know, we need, quote, more affordable housing. Well, how about if we say we need X number of units to address this population? Because if you can define it more narrowly, they're not going to write it off. They're going to say, okay, well, you guys have needed this much housing for these many years, and let's address it both for the public and for the elected officials.
Thank you, Jim. So bringing specificity in terms of demographics to kind of, filter it into these needs and make them more,
into the budget, yes.
More realistic, perhaps. I mean, I think the question is, how do we do all of that, right? It's a matter of, is it a committee, or is it through the other committees, or is it something that individuals want to take on? So
I think it's something we could do with in association with other committees. I mean, or maybe Department of City Planning has a fairly wide database of information on demographics and income and what have you. Part of it's drawn from the Census Bureau, and other, there are other sources. But I think we could work with DCP and our own volunteers to better define some of our budget requests, better define some of our proactive planning, etc.
That actually be part of the kind of 197A kind of, backing? Like, is that something that would make sense to include in a revised report of some kind? Maybe
yeah, somewhat, but I mean, I think it's something that you might need to upgrade every 3 years or so, as opposed to a 197A plan, which gets done maybe once every 10 or 15 years. 197A plan has its own procedures. This would kind of be more of an internal document, things that we know, the board office knows, the budget, the committee chairs know, budget, transportation, housing, all of those folks. That's my sense.
Okay. And I think Jesus put some demographic figures. He put some in the chat, a link there.
Yep.
I mean, to that, and too, you mentioned the, our kind of, we don't really have the social media going per se, but we do have that. I mean, we have the website, right? And that now I'm wondering, do we keep that website up? I feel like MSBI, although they're not leaving that location, they are still doing some pretty major overhauls. So I think it's good to have that as a forum for community engagement should we need it. So I mean, I vote to kind of keep it going, even though I probably won't be updating it unless we know something more. Thoughts on that? Anything that we should do to kind of keep that moving ahead?
Hold on.
Go ahead, Corinne.
I was like, oh, I need to raise my hand. I'm looking for the button. It's been a while. I kind of lost you there for 30 seconds because my dogs over here are ripping up a pillow, but
that's what sneakers are for.
Like, it's distracting. You said something about updating, which immediately it made me think about the website and the social media that we have. shall we take that down, or
That's what I was asking. I mean, should we take it down or should we keep it there in case of, my only thought is, and maybe, I don't know, Claude, if you know any more about this or anything, but with MSBI, what they basically said is we're staying there, but we may sell off still portions of the property, right? We may do this, we may do that. Would it make sense to kind of leave it in place? Although I don't see much updating going on in the near future unless we hear anything.
Well, the MSIBI is moving forward with their plans. They have a architect, they have consultants on board already. They
Right.
have a construction company on board. And I think the extreme to their plan would be the raising of coppice. That's when talking about going the furthest that they may be planning to go, they may knock down coppice and build something totally different. But the rest is being consulted on how do they bring the old structure in,
Yeah.
in compatibility with each other.
Right. How do they modernize and
Yeah,
do
the
what they need to
floors and
do?
everything like that.
Right.
And the priority sale is Bernstein building. And that would come about after they move to Rivington. What is it
Right.
called?
Right.
Rivington. After they move to Rivington, that would come about. I don't see that it's a loss in keeping the website up. If you're getting any response, are you getting responses to it?
We haven't been asking, I mean, we haven't been really putting anything out there either.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even updated it with the update.
I updated it with the update, but that's
You
it.
did?
Yeah, just very, very basic when it happened this summer.
but in response to Lou and Jim, I agree with both of them in a way, but I think the real question is where does this effort fit? It should be under land use, but you're not really talking about doing a 197A. In terms of what Jim is saying, it's almost all of the components of a 197A, but not actually doing a 197A and looking at the changes and getting ahead of it. Because if you look around our neighborhood, you can see that the developers have already planned out major movements in our community. Just go to 23rd Street and you can see 23rd Street and 3rd Avenue is going to change overnight. The Starbucks is closed. Across the street, they're building a 20-story building, and Amalgamated is gone. Those are all of the corners on 23rd Street. So you can see that the developers are already ahead on this. I was a little surprised that that 202 building is going to have affordable house in it, though. The one that's across the street from the Starbucks.
Mhm.
I think it's 100 units or something, but 28 units may be affordable.
Yeah.
But
Right.
we
Right. I
need
mean,
to
I
catch
do-
up. We need to catch up. That's
I
what
think
mean.
the point about being, I mean, the point of this committee from, in my view, was to be more proactive and less reactive to things. I mean, we were being reactive a little bit to MSBI, but we were pushing, right?
Yeah.
So I think keeping that momentum going is really important to me, and figuring out how to do that with you guys, whether it's, you know, deployed in other committees or meeting separately from the committee setup is fine with me. I really do think we need to kind of get ahead of things and not be, but I'm going to bring that to land use. I don't want to be at land use, like, you know, just writing up responses to things that we know are already in the works. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
What's really hard about the stuff that Claude was talking about is most of these developments are as of right, and it's very difficult to keep a handle on those. I mean, you'll see them pop up maybe in the press occasionally, but somebody developing as of right, there's really no way to be proactive on it. I mean, other than to anticipate. I mean, I knew the corner at 23rd and that southeast corner at 23rd and 3rd was going to be knocked down anytime soon, just because I imagine they probably got air rights from the UFA building, and there's a lot of development potential for that particular site. But unless we do something like that and say, you know, this has potential for development, it's on 2 wide streets, et cetera, I think we're kind of behind the 8 ball. It would be nice if the city had some kind of notice requirement that even if you are building as of right, just file a notice with Department of City Planning saying, you know, we have this lot, this is our general notion of development. And the community board doesn't have to get involved at all in terms of that. Just be aware of what is happening. And we can't do that currently.
Yeah, I know the lot near Claude and I to the 24th and 2nd, the former clinic, that's going to be raised soon. And I think there's housing already in the works, building a condo or something in the works for that too.
They haven't submitted anything that I know of, but they do have a demolition team, and they're supposedly filed permits to raise it, yeah.
Yeah, I know there was a demo permit. Someone else told me that there was something either filed or in the works. I'm not sure if it's official. I'd asked George Janes to alert us if something came up. I haven't heard anything yet, but we'll check on that. Anyway, moving on from that, I think you guys are right. The reason that I could have fought and said, you know what, we need to keep this committee because there's still so much on our plates, but I think figuring out how to do it is going to be the rub right now. So Lou, go ahead.
Jim was exactly right. He outlined a number of very important elements in a 197A plan. And if you use Jim's comments as a core, the rest actually flows very nicely. You can keep track of building permits, of demolition permits by checking with the city agencies on a regular basis. Staff can hopefully do that. There is data on population that's available to us, both from the city and from the state. And if we wished from the federal government, we can in fact generate a pretty substantial amount of planning in the community. And I think I've got to go back because I think Jim laid his finger on very important elements in the doing of that. We could, if in fact we make a decision to go forward, I spent some time relearning this word, seconded. We could ask the other committees to lend us a member who would both be knowledgeable about what that committee does and to work with a 197A plan as a combined element so that no segment of the board is in fact left out. It's quite doable. And I got to praise Jim again. That was a very good outline of stuff that needs to be included.
Appreciate that, Lou. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. I think, and if we do get that planning associate on board, and this is how we're going to, kind of put his skills to use, I think it would be great if we can kind of outline that and get a contact, a key person from each committee to weigh in on these things.
And maybe we could meet. I'm sorry. Hand raised.
Go ahead.
Maybe we could meet, say on a quarterly basis, or maybe every 4 months, just to circle around and grab some of the committee people, just to assess things that are developing in the community. Things are going to change, I think, dramatically after we emerge from COVID. I don't see a lot of. I'm not as optimistic as a lot of people are saying with respect to people returning to their offices and office space still being available or being maintained. I've seen that coming for a long time, and this COVID simply expedited what was inevitable. People will want to work remotely because we have the tools to do so. So I think there's going to be big changes, and in particularly in Midtown, for our community district, and we need to be
I did
a part of
notice.
it.
Yeah, I did notice like in my general vicinity, and thank you, Brian Lafferty just posted something about that building I mentioned, that there's probably a new 13-story building up to me. Anyway, I've noticed that there's a lot of turnover in the retail and the restaurants and everything, but there are some new places popping up, which is good, I guess. It's good. Whereas in more of the Midtown regions, I've seen a lot more kind of, empty space that looks like it's not moving forward or changing. But you're right. I think there's been a demographic shift also in that the rents went down, significantly, and a lot of people moved in to I think to our building and our neighborhood who probably wouldn't have in the past. So we should be looking at that really in detail as we proceed. I'm down for this quarterly idea of regrouping. If the folks in this meeting are interested, we can kind of follow up on that. Kyle told me, I know most of you have been here before I joined the board, and this was probably your third committee. It wasn't a committee, I guess it was a working group, right? So I don't know that you need to be reassigned to anything, but if this is only your second committee, he's gonna work on, what else you guys will be connecting to committee-wise, if there was any question about that. Jim, are you trying to say something? Go ahead, you're muted.
Press the button, Jim.
Yeah, no, I know. I was just going to, it's hard to do these with one screen. I was going to post a photo of the site that's being because I couldn't place it. When you said the clinic, I couldn't picture it in my mind's eye. Now I see it.
Yeah, it's a low, I guess it's multiple buildings, but it's a low two-story.
Yeah, it's a low rise.
It's like 4 lots altogether.
It's like 4 lots glommed together. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not sorry to see that go, but I'm just curious, I just would really love to see that something good's coming in its place. Corinne.
I just wanted to thank you, Kavitha, for having been such an excellent leader, chair of the Strategic Community Planning Committee. It's just been such a pleasure, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for your work on this and guiding us through this.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. But I honestly did. I just wanted to see your faces. I could have just sent a note. We're done. We're not meeting again.
Thank you,
Round of
Kavitha.
applause for the
Yay.
chair.
Hey, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wait, do I see who's got their hand up?
Absolutely.
No. Okay.
Sandra?
No, I'm staying in the background.
Okay.
You're staying in the background. Okay.
But thank you, Kavitha. You've been fantastic.
Thanks so much, you guys. Yeah, so I think we got to keep going on this. I don't think we should lose sight of it. I'll probably connect with you all if you're okay with that on something in terms of like, Sandy and I will be on land use. Wells will be on land use. I mean,
land use.
people are going to be on land use, right? So Lou, yeah. So
I think
almost everybody's on land use too. I know.
well, we all came out of land use
Yeah.
when we set up the committee.
And Claude's on exec, so he can keep us in the know.
Well, I attend all of the land use meetings, so.
Yeah, you can
That's right.
you can keep us straight.
Yeah, and I think Rich, Corinne's former and Rich's current committee will be really, really instrumental in this when we move forward in terms of housing. And
I think Claude was the instigator of the whole notion of this committee because of the odd developments that we saw going on in the neighborhood.
Well, actually, I had
Remember
an
that? I
arrow in
remember
my
that
back
meeting.
from Lou.
What's that?
I had an arrow in my back from Lou.
Well, I remember specifically the conversation where you were talking about all the development that was happening in the neighborhood that nobody was paying much attention to, because it was all, again, all as of right. So
Okay, that's true. Thank you.
well done, Claude.
Thank you. Corinne, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to go back to the website just for a minute.
Sure.
I mean, just looking at it, it's outdated.
Can we
And
just,
there's really no point in
you retire it?
So if you don't mind, I'll just retire it.
He agrees.
Sorry?
We need to vote on retiring the
The dog
website.
agrees.
Yeah, the dogs definitely.
Yeah, sorry, my dog.
The dogs are in favor of retiring it. They want to go walkies.
I have a pandemic puppy, and pandemic puppy is going nuts.
Oh,
Eh,
wow.
they're all
But
good pups.
go back to, I'm so sorry, they're literally going nuts. He ate my couch, like literally ate my couch. So should we close the website? Is that a yay or a nay?
Any objections to closing the website?
I have no objection.
I think we're good. Oh, this is Lee.
Are we going to recommend that various committees reach out and designate people to continue to work on a 197A? Because if we are, then there are people who with experience on the board who might be available, even though they're not members now, to serve as either public members or resource people to provide us direction and orientation, even if it's a seconded committee that's structured a little differently.
Explain that to me again. What does it mean? The I don't know the term.
Seconded means that you've tapped people from other sources to serve for a special purpose on a committee similar to this, and they would not give up their membership on other committees, but would serve for the duration of the functioning of this effort.
Got it. That sounds just about right, Lou. I think that makes a lot of sense.
The
Yeah.
Brits use that term a lot when they send people overseas.
It took a whole bunch of time to relearn that word, which had slipped out of my vocabulary years ago.
Yeah, no,
Sandy.
I'm just thinking like the direction we've received from the chair of the board is that this committee should be folded into land use. So I think we would need to run that past exec or see what they want to do. And maybe if it's a special committee within land use, we ask people to contribute, but that seems to be the direction we've been given.
Yeah, and I'm not fully, I mean, I understand it because there's so much overlap, but I do think we need to tap into the other committees to make it effective. So, I mean, my thought now, and Jesus, I think we're going to try to meet with this community planning fellow, whatever they're called, soon. But if that works out and that's like a project we take on, and I can help oversee that, and that's, that's the goal was to kind of rethink that, then maybe as that part of that project, we can pull from the committees, the people that would make the most sense. What do you think, Jesus? Is that, obviously would bring it up and get Kyle's approval on it, but that's how I kind of see it happening.
I'm not super clear on like in what sort of context that would be. Like, would it be a separate, like an additional land use committee meeting and then just whoever shows up, shows up? Because these meetings do have to sort of conform to the open meetings law. And since this committee is essentially going on hiatus, and people will be removed from it, you can't really meet like that. But if you meet as an additional meeting of the land use committee, then you've got that, and then whoever comes, and that could be, you can have as many meetings of a particular committee as you want. We can, I think as things start to progress and they coalesce around an idea, we can sort of see about the logistics.
Okay. Jim?
I mean, it's really not that much different from what we were prior to us being designated a separate committee. No?
But it was a
You know what I
working
mean?
group and we still had official meetings, right? So,
Yeah, but you know, it's kind of back to where we originated. And like I say, if we take it to every 3 or 4 months, as opposed to when were we meeting before? It was monthly, right?
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we take it to every other month or every 3 months, you know,
It might be good for
could see that.
simplicity's sake just to do that within the context of the land use committee that already exists. And
Yeah.
those that are interested can join, and those that are not don't have to. As far as secondment, I had not heard that term before. I learned a new word today. But as far as tapping the expertise and the interest of other members in other committees, members of the board are able and to attend any committee meeting that they want. You know, they may not sit on the committee formally, but that doesn't mean they can't attend the meeting. It is open to the public, and members are part of that as well, and give their input. What I'm trying to, what I would suggest is to try, as far as the logistics and the operations, to keep that as simple as possible, while achieving your aim of including as many people as possible.
Jesus, would we be required to do minutes?
Every committee that meets would have to meet publicly, you know, as per the open meetings law, and would
minutes.
Yes, minutes, all this stuff, all the bells and whistles, I think.
Yep. But every 3 months or whatever it is.
Right.
So
Whatever
if land use wanted to maybe have every quarter or trimester or something, an additional meeting that month, you know.
Could we outline a plan for this, you know, proposed group a little more, like kind of independently before we come together again and say, this is what we want to do? Is that okay? If we just kind of say, this is, you know, like Jim said about the demographics, like Lou said about updating the plan, like if we can put together really, this is the goal, and this is what we see the membership looking like, and this is what we see the timeline and the meeting frequency looking like. Can we just come up with that first and then go back before we start formulating this?
The
Official.
mechanics,
Yeah. Sorry?
mechanics of this could be done by bifurcating the land use committees, having this meet just before the land use committee or just after the land use committee with the additional members,
Right.
so that it wouldn't be 2 nights, and keep them relatively brief, and rely heavily on the expertise of George James, is that his name, the land use guy that we
George
have.
James. Mhm.
Yeah, and maybe some veteran members of the board who might come back to help us with the project, help us do the framing out and orient what we're doing so that we're efficient, effective, and comprehensive.
Yep.
If you want, I mean, depending on when you want it, I can lay out the what was it George Bush Sr. called the vision thing, you know. I think I can do the vision thing, and lay that out, generally speaking, in terms of what we would do and how we would go about doing it. I'll crank out the minutes and put together like a 1-pager.
Yeah, just a framework.
On, what we
I
want
think
to
that
do.
would help.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good to me. All right.
Jim, if it's of any help, you could let me look at it and I try to flesh it out before we circulate it, if that will help.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll circulate it to everybody on the committee via Jesus. So.
Jim, don't let him add too many of those big words he's been throwing around.
What big words? What big words? Oh, secondment?
Yeah.
The vision thing? Wouldn't be
I worked long and hard to figure out how to sneak that into the meeting.
You did a good job. Now I'm going to go look it up afterwards.
The Americans call it loan staff. The loan staff and the Brits call it secondment. for some reason. I don't know.
Oh,
Go
interesting.
figure.
Okay, okay. All right, guys, I think we have some plan to move forward with things that we had still in the works, and definitely extracting some of the stuff from the existing 197A, but real overhaul and update based on our current situation, demographics, recent things
Yep.
going on with COVID. I think we're in a good place.
No worries.
So unless you have anything else on our agenda item,
In agreement that we want to keep the geographic boundaries 34th to 14th, the river to Irving, so that we have a sense of focus of what we're dealing with.
With respect to the 197A plan, that's fine. With respect to the general objectives of
Demographics
the
and all that.
committee, yeah, and with respect to the general objectives of the committee, I think that would probably hurt us. I think we need to address the entire community board district.
Well said.
Andy has a hand up.
Yeah,
So-
I would just add that since we're not doing a 197A, that we look at how the things that were important in the 197A affect the entire community. We're not redoing one, but that 197A actually has a big impact on other things within our community. So I would focus on the whole board. I don't think we need to divide out any specific area.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so that can be worked in as well, if we feel comfortable with that. The full district.
Okay. Okay. So I can go watch Jeopardy now.
So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. Moving on, anything else?
Freaking
on
guy's got
the-
1,000,004 already.
I know, it's ridiculous. No more, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Oh
1,000,004.
man, yeah, more than that, 1,000,004. He's like a scythe through butter, man. It's unbelievable.
All right, so
All right.
moving on, I have no chair's report. I think this basically was my chair's report. Thank you all again for
Just
being
a
such a pleasure to work with. So
just
I
a
hope I-
heartfelt and a thank you for all that you've done.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Old or new business, anybody?
100%.
All
Yeah,
right,
that's it.
all right, everyone. So
That's all she wrote. Thank you,
that's all she
boss.
wrote. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, so
Second.
seeing no further business. You don't even need to second it, but thank you for that. Seeing no further business. This meeting is adjourned at 7:45 p.m. and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.